Welcome to Here to Serve, a United Regional podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Graves. My favorite part of being the Director of Patient Experience at United Regional is the incredible people that I meet and work with on a daily basis, and I want you to meet them too. Join us to meet the people behind the badge and to highlight those who are here to serve. Galen, welcome to the Here to Serve podcast. It's an honor to have you today, sir.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, so tell me who you are and what you do.
Okay. I am Galen Immanuel. So I do a lot of kind of skills development training with organizations and teams around building team culture, around communication, around emotional intelligence and self-awareness, leadership, change, moving through change, that kind of stuff. So I do half of my work is to do skills training. The other half is like help teams develop culture that's intentional. Yeah. That's what I do.
What's your? I heard today you spoke at our LDI session, which was great. For anybody that doesn't know, that stands for Leadership Development Institute. Our organizational leaders get together once a quarter, and we work and grow and get better. And Galen just spoke to us a few minutes ago, which my face hurt at the end from so much laughing and smiling. It was a great time, but. I'm interested in your backgrounds. It was mentioned that you have a background in improv.
Yep.
And even Whose Line Is It Anyway? Is that accurate?
Yep.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so my kind of background, I've always been sort of entrepreneur, sales, marketing, that's my sort of business background.
Okay.
At one point I started doing improv for a long time. So I taught and performed improv for years and years, which is sort of how I got into this work. But through that time of doing improv, I toured with the cast of Whose Line Is It Anyway. I've done a billion shows doing improv. And that's sort of how, like I said, how I kind of got into this was at one point I became the marketing and sales director for the improv theater I was performing and teaching at, and I started developing curriculum and stuff like that, and I just fell in love with it. I'm starting my own company, which has been 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Incredible. Well, I thought it was fascinating today. And you start to, you see universal human principles, right? Mm-hmm. Across a lot of different things. But I thought I was sitting there going, wow, this guy, was good at improv, saw the principles of improv. And you tell me if I got this wrong. This is just what I was thinking. This guy took the principles of improv that the rules you talked about, and then said, hey, this applies to way more than improv. This applies to life, and this applies to organizations. And then you started building off of that. Is that accurate?
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, it really is, the misconception about improv for people that are familiar with improv and Whose Line Is It Anyway is that people think it's about being funny, it's about acting like a weird character and that kind of stuff. And the truth is, once you really get into it and learn how it's really about sort of connecting with other human beings and sort of being being in the moment, making other people look good, it's more about connection and listening. And so to me, seeing that as it's not really about being creative and funny and thinking on your feet, that's an element of it, but really it's about how do people show up? How do they respond to each other? What does that elicit, right? But how I show up, how does it change how you show up around me? And so just the opportunities there for connection and, right? Mm-hmm. We talk about business teams and working, right? We come from different places. We have diverse groups of people that have jobs and trying to accomplish something together as humans. And the way that people show up and interact and treat each other and respond to one another is everything for what it feels like to be part of a team. So there's so many kind of through lines there and just tools that I'm like, this is really useful for how you think about how you move through the world and what that creates in relationships and all those kinds of things. So
One of the things I say often, and I'm glad you brought up the way you show up, because I actually wrote it down. I was listening as you were talking and writing things down that I thought were interesting and that resonated with me. And that was one of the first things I wrote down was, I put in quotation marks, the way you show up. One of the things that I teach and try to instill often with new clinicians, new nurses, just new employees in general at United Regional, is I will often say something along the lines of, you decide who you're going to be, and you decide what your day and what your shift is going to look like before you get in the building. That gets decided in the parking lot or on the drive or home or et cetera. But you're deciding what your heart posture for that day is going to be before you get here. When you say the way you show up, is that what you're referring to, or are you talking to some bigger or different? What do you mean by that?
I mean, I think it totally resonates with what you said. It's like being intentional about the way that you move through the world, how you respond to other people. To me, I kind of, one of the tenets of improv is around sort of being positive, which doesn't necessarily mean saying only positive things. Work is stressful. We go through things personally that are not positive, but to me, really the embodiment of that is you are in charge of your own weather. The energy that you bring to a meeting, to an interaction with a patient or a coworker or whatever is you are always in control of your own choice of words, your body language, your energy level, all that stuff. And so that is the easy kind of connect for me, is like you're just in charge of the weather that you bring. And you can be a stormy rain cloud to people around you, or you can be sunlight. And is it possible to do that perfectly every moment? No, of course. I mean, things rattle us and shake us, and we can even go into work with the intention of like, cool, I'm gonna have these things like what you said. But within the first half an hour, this goes wrong, and it's really just like you said, I get to choose how I show up. I get to choose how I respond to people, situations, how I speak to people, and that to me is like, it's just that piece of self-awareness, right? It's like I'm being intentional about the way that you experience me as a coworker, as a human being, and
because what else can I actually control? Like,
not much,
right? Yeah, like I said, it's such a freeing thing when I remind myself of that. Of like, man, I cannot control what this person says. I cannot control what the organization does. I can't control this. I control almost nothing except
the way you show up.
I can decide what my weather is. You know, that's awesome. I love that. Yeah, really great. So I want to get into your rules. You gave some rules that I wrote them all down because I thought they were just really good rules for life. Now, you said these were rules of improv. Is that correct? Rules of improv?
Yeah. And they're more like skills or tenets or like a value of, or like a sort of behavior. But just in a nutshell, the kind of core concept, main idea of improv is around yes and. Just like saying yes, being open and receptive to ideas and reality, and embracing what's true and what you get from somebody else, and then adding on to it, right? Yeah. Just like the yes and piece. But those 5 skills or tenets of improv are to say yes, right? Which is around just the mode of being open and receptive to other ideas. And also, it's not about always saying yes to everything. Sure, like people misinterpret that to be like, oh, I have to say yes to everything. It's like, obviously not. That is not possible. Yeah. Especially in work and just in life, but it's just being receptive and open to other ideas and looking for ways to say yes when we can.
I wrote that down in parentheses. I put say yes, and then I put when you can.
Yes.
Right? Look for reasons to say yes. But it's not, we're not going to be ridiculous. Right. We're looking for ways to say yes.
Right. And I think that's like, a natural reaction. I'm an analytical kind of person, right? My mind is ultimately like, I think of all the strategic ways that things can go wrong and but it's like when presented with something, if we're actively looking for ways to say yes versus looking for all the reasons that it won't work, right? And as opposed to like, is this possible? Can we do this? And to come from a place of just possibility is really kind of the embodiment of that idea of saying yes. Is like, is it possible to say yes to this? The second one, do you want me to do all 5?
Let's talk through them.
Yeah, the second one is around listening and being present. Huge part of improv, but also with like other human beings, of like being present, being in the moment. One of the things that we touched on today that I think is really important is just the shift as you think about interacting with other people, is like making other people feel listened to. Right? We think about listening as active listening, but it's like if I'm focused on your experience versus mine, I show up in a different way, right? If it's like I heard the words that you said, right? If like in terms of listening, is very different than me having the intention of making you feel listened to. Because if that's my intention, as I interact with other people, I show up differently in terms of my eye contact, my body language, my attentiveness, because I'm focused on your experience. Like, do you feel listened to me right now? And that's true in a lot of work situations. Right, in healthcare, whether that's a patient, if you're a leader, if you're having a conversation with somebody else, it's like to be aware of, does this person feel listened to by me? Am I showing up in a way that elicits that? And like being present in the moment is important. So
before we move on, I want to jump in on that one because I just think that is such a universal truth. Listening and being present. Even if what I have found with this is, even if I show up and go, there's this funny like brain games that we play, I think, but I'm going to listen so that I can have, if I listen, I'll be able to manipulate them into what I want because I'm listening and they're going to, but something weird happens in the brain is when you listen, you actually starts to change how you view that person, how they view you. Something happens between two humans when you actually listen to them and are curious about them. And I've got this quote that I can't remember who said it. I wish I could attribute to them, but I say it all the time now. And that quote is, being listened to is so much like being loved that most people can't tell the difference.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure.
It's like when you listen.
If you think about the people in your life that you are the fondest, like all that stuff. I mean, just the act of making somebody feel listened to, or people that you can talk to, be like, I feel seen.
Right.
I feel
Feel heard,
considered.
feel seen,
As
feel
opposed
heard,
to this person's just listening to me enough to form a response and then waiting for me to stop making noise with my mouth so that they can say what they're already going to say back to, right? It's just, I'm just waiting for my turn to talk versus really absorbing what you're saying.
Yeah.
And again, it's just like focusing on somebody else's experience.
Yeah.
If I move through my day and I'm like, my goal interacting with you is that you feel listened to by me, then I'm here, I'm present. I'm like, do you feel listened to? So yeah, I think that, I love that quote. I think it's accurate and it's great.
I think it ties really good to rule number 3.
Yep.
Which is
making other people look good.
I love it.
And that takes a lot of different forms, I think, in workplaces and in life, but in improv for sure. It's like the improv usage of that is my number one focus as an improviser, if I'm on stage with you and we're doing a scene, is to make everything that you say look brilliant, which requires me to tune in and listen, not be wanting to force my own ideas to have happen, but to sort of like make you look good. And so again, just like making you feel listened to, if my focus is to like make you look good, it takes the pressure off of me to be perfect, to be impressive, any of that kind of stuff. It's just like, we're in this together and we're tuned in. And so it's this sense of, I have your back. And which is really important to instill in people, because if you put 2 improvisers on stage where there's no script and you don't know what you're gonna do, if everybody's out for themselves, like, I'm trying to be funny, I'm we're not on the same page. But if the focus is, I'm gonna make you look good, if you make an offer, whatever, I'm gonna accept that offer, I'm gonna be here with you, then we're playing together as a team, right? And like, that's really important. And there's a lot of different ways in the workplace, because I understand workplaces, where making other people look good involves also not bad-mouthing people behind their back, right?
All right,
when I have the opportunity to point out someone else made a mistake or say something negative about someone when they're not in the room, it's like, I don't. Because with intention, it's like, if my goal is to make other people look good around me, then that's the opposite of that, right? And it's like, what is the intent? How am I showing up, right? And like, and I think that making other people look good is important, because it's like embracing failure, extending grace. If you make a mistake, which you're human and you're gonna prove to be imperfect at some point, do I need to make you feel bad to pile on, to tell other people the thing you did, or can I extend you some grace? I think, the idea, just embodying the idea of making other people look good is important. You support the people around you, you give praise to other people around you. I think like that's important to remember, because it builds trust, it builds connection, it builds relationships, right? If you know that I'm not just out for myself, I want to take all the credit, I want to look good, that's my focus. Like, our relationship, you don't trust me as much, right? As we move through the world. And if I have a service mindset, if I'm here, right, I want to make other people look good, I want to lift up other people. I always am like, it's hard to convince other people that you're impressive. And I'm like, if you want to look impressive, make everybody else around you look impressive.
Yes.
And that's easy to do. There's no pressure there. It's like, how can I lift other people up? How can I make other people look good?
Gosh, there's so much to unpack there. I know we're not going to be able to get into all of it, but I love these 3 right here. These 3, just so if anybody's having trouble remembering, it's say yes when you can, listen and be present, and make others look good. I put it, when you were speaking today, I put a little arrow to all 3 of them. And as we've been talking right here, you've said this word like 40 times, and the word is others. Those 3 are others focused, right? They're not self-focused. All of this is others focused, others. And if I had like one life value that I try to aspire to, it would be to just focus on other people. And you said it, you said the word, I don't think you said the word freedom. What did you say? You said a word along those same lines, freeing or freedom or something like that. But I think there's such freedom there. There's such a relief when I quit worrying about me and start looking at other people and focusing on other people.
It takes the pressure off.
It takes the pressure off.
To be like, I have to impress people. I have to be perfect. I have to da-da-da. It's like, nope, I'm here to do my best and make other people look good and be in service of other people and lift them up. It's a lot less pressure, because that's easy to do. I don't have to worry about how do people perceive me. It's like, the way I want you to perceive me is somebody who's in support of you, who wants to make you look good. I'm like, because I know through doing that, it builds trust, it builds a better relationship.
We're all in our heads so much that humans generally are walking around in our own heads, and we tend to be self-focused, right? And then when we move away from that self-focus and start looking at others, I think it changes your brain chemistry, it changes how you view the world, it changes everything. And then there's such freedom in it, because now instead of me worrying about me, one of my favorite books, ever is by a guy named Tim Keller, but it's called The Freedom of Self-Forgetfulness. It's an awesome book. You can read it you can read it in the afternoon.
Yep.
The Freedom of Self-Forgetfulness, but he covers some of this concept very well. I think it's so freeing, and I think, and I'm starting to see, as we talk through these, I'm seeing the genius of these rules, and not just of the rules, but I'm assuming you intentionally put them in this order because number 4 is
Embrace change and failure.
Yeah, embrace change and failure. You're not going to be able to do number 4 if you're not self-forgetful on the first, if you're not already looking at other people, and you're never going to be able to get into embracing change and failure. So talk about what embrace change and failure means in this setting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as improvisers, right? Just to take it back to that and like where it's from, is that every moment on stage without a script is unexpected circumstances. And so learning to be able to be present in the moment and embrace that like change, to be able to immediately pivot and be like, what is my reality right now in this exact moment, to be able to immediately kind of like recalibrate around that and move forward. Is really important. So as improvisers, it's like we understand and we just love change. We see it as at anything that we set out to do, no matter what it is, right? We know that change and unexpected circumstances and failures and setbacks and all that kind of stuff are neighborhoods that we have to drive through to get to where we're going, and we love it. We love it. A lot of times, that's where the magic happens, is like the unexpected or whatever, or we're learning. And you know, that's another thing. Just take it another layer of that is like the failure is that it takes a long time to learn to do improv. It's a craft. And if you're learning how to do improv and performing and stuff like that, you have to do 100 terrible shows and 100 terrible scenes before you're gaining the capability, right? But those failures, those setbacks, those moments of like, I sucked at this, are really important. You can't just teleport from here, I want to be great. You can't will yourself to be great at something. It's growth mindset. It's like, yes, the failures that we have, the times that we don't have a perfect outcome, are data. They're necessary. Those are learning steps, right? It's like chess is the greatest to me, growth mindset and chess.
Okay.
Chess is really complicated as a game. You can't learn how to play chess and beat someone that knows how to play it, ever. You have to play and lose 50 or 100 times in a row. That's just it. And so it's the ultimate, like, you cannot learn how to play chess without a growth mindset, because you have to lose, and the losing is necessary, the learning, right? And I think that as improvisers is something we embody. We love it. Like the love of the failure, the learning, the experimenting, trying new things. And like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you have to it takes the courage, right? And in a work environment, it takes the culture, the foundation of psychological safety, that it's okay for me to take a risk. It's okay for me to do something, to speak up, share an idea, try something and fail, right? If failure is not seen as a sign of incompetence, but collectively within a group or team or from a failure is not seen as a marker of incompetence, it's seen as something that's valuable data to grow and learn. And like the priority is to improve and learn. We can't do that without failures and missteps and those things, but people won't feel safe enough to take risks or whatever unless we have this sort of culture that embraces the idea that like, this doesn't just mean, okay, a little change, we embrace it. It's that, you know, we stop reacting to change and we see it as something that's constant and continual and always, right?
It's always going to be
I'm
that.
not reacting to change. I'm just recalibrating to my new reality that I can embrace at any moment. To be like, okay, we're doing this now. And part of that, you know, especially in workplaces, we get, you know, we change software. We go through lots of changes all the time. And it's like, like change is hard for people, but it's really like, it's hard to remain attached to the way that things were. I think that's what makes change difficult, because if we really have the mindset to be like, cool, we're going to change and this is our new system or this is our new software. We're going to learn it. It's going to be a pain to learn, and then and then as soon as we learn it and get comfortable with it, guess what? It's going to change again. And so if we are moving through that to be like, we don't just react to change, we anticipate it, we expect it. We know that it's constant and that it's coming. And when it shows up, we're like, okay, here we go. And then we pivot and move forward. It's important. Yeah.
As you're talking, I'm wondering about I mean, of course, the old adage is the only person that likes change is the person whose idea it was to change, right? And then everybody else goes, no, and then fight against it or whatever. But you've alluded to this a couple of times, and that is, I think, the idea of this illusion of control, of change means I'm having to not be in control right now. Right? If there's a change and it wasn't my idea, that means I'm not in control. Where do you, I guess just talk about that. You said a phrase, I'm preoccupied with, in your setting of what you were talking about earlier of improv. If one person is preoccupied with bending the other person to their will, this is where I want the story to go. Well, it's all going to fall apart, right? And that is that control. I'm trying to control this. I'm trying to be in charge of this and bend this other person. Where do you think that illusion of control and that desire for it? Why are we that way? You know, what do you think?
I mean, I think that humans love to feel comfortable and steady, right?
That's
and so I think
good,
it touches into like ambiguity and uncertainty. If we're changing something, then the fear, the wonder is, will it make things worse? Will it make my life harder? Will it make my job harder? Will, you know, it's like there's fear of uncertainty, there's fear of ambiguity. And even if things suck, and I know that they suck right now, I'm like, it's a constant. I can rely on, these things are reliable to me. As soon as we take that away as human beings, and we have a real problem with uncertainty and ambiguity, where it's like, I need all the answers. I need to know this is gonna have a perfect outcome, which goes back to the idea that like, you can't guarantee that.
Right.
And to be able, I think a big part of being able to move through change, and not just as an organization, but individually, how hard do you want change to be? And if your mindset and relationship with change is, I know that it's constant, I know it's not always gonna be comfortable, but I have a growth mindset, and like whenever I learn, I'm gonna learn it, and then it's gonna change again, is that we can move through those times with more ease.
That's right. Well, and I think a lot of the cynics would look at what you're saying and say, well, I can't just have a Pollyanna mindset and just be, you know, like everything's rainbows and butterflies and positive all the time. But I think what I've heard you say, both in talking earlier and now, is I gotta look at the truth. I gotta look at the truth and accept the truth for what it is. And I may not be able to bend this to my will, but I need to look at. I think you had a quote about it. I think I wrote it down. I don't know where I wrote it, but did you say something about that today of just looking straight at the truth?
Yes, and I think it's just that, like, what is your reality right now? Because if we spend time being like, I wish it were like this, or the good old days, or we used to do these things, it just makes change harder for me to embrace that. As opposed to be like, what is my reality right now? And what can I do about that? Again, what do I have control over, right? And wishing it was this way, or we used to do this way, and I'm like, yeah, but you also used to have like, you know, you used to do paperwork on paper instead of digitally. Like, you have to see change as also the path to progress and improvement. But it's uncomfortable for us. It's different, and we don't know always that this will make things better. And sometimes it does. Usually, almost always, and it doesn't. But we pivot, right? Like, it's just wanting to control those things or wanting to have things stay the same. It's normal for humans to be like resistant to change, resistant. Like I would take the familiar, even if it's less than ideal, over like the uncomfortableness of like, what is this going to mean for me? And that's it. It's a constant thing. It's as difficult as, it's such an inside job to be like, what is my relationship with change? And if, you know, I think that, I'll touch on this thing. I think it's a good perspective, I think. If you hired somebody, okay, let's say in an organization, you change all your software, right? We're going to change the way we do charting. I don't know, whatever. You're going to change some big software kind of thing. Employees that have been there, have done it, are always like, oh, they freak out. But the truth is, you could hire a new employee to the organization the day after that change and be like, here's the system and software, here's how we use it. They could learn it, no problem. They're smart, they're intelligible. They're like, okay, cool. This is how you do this thing. You push this button, da, da, da. Not hard for them to learn. The employees that are already there are smart too. When you were hired, the day you were hired, you learned all the systems and processes, no problem. But if they've already learned these systems and processes and we change it to this, it's like, people are like, like it's impossible. The truth is that like, if you were hired the next day and that's what you were told, you'd be able to learn it. So it's not that we can't learn it, it's that we're attached to the way things used to be, or we just see our relationship with change is like, I want it to be this thing. And I'm not immune to the fact that like, yes, being comfortable is great, but the truth, the logistics of it is that like, you're a smart, capable person, you can learn anything. You can like, and people lose their minds. I used to have to push this button, now I have to do this instead. You're like, oh, you're not gonna die from that. And if you got hired today, you'd be like, okay, that's how we do things. It wouldn't even, it wouldn't cause all this drag through the mud turmoil. But as human beings, we're resistant to change. We're like, this is worse, da-da-da. And the truth is like, it's not anything you can't learn. So understanding that about yourself is like, I can learn this thing. It's not going to ruin my life. It's going to, it's a change. It's different. It's disruptive to how I used to do things, but like, you're not going to die from it. So, and I think again, it's like, change is coming. regardless of
It's
your
right.
relationship with
It's
it.
the only thing
It is
that's
going
constant.
to happen to you. So do you want to be drugged through the mud reluctantly through it? Or do you want to like pick up your feet and be like,
Right.
okay, here we go.
Here we go.
This is my reality. Assimilate and recalibrate to like, this is what's true for me right now. What do I have control over and move forward?
Yeah.
And like, you know, it just, people who are like that, who move through the world like that, have an easier time with change than
agree.
people who are reluctant and resistant. And
Well, which means an easier and better, not even necessarily easier, it's a better life. You know, you're not just your work, but your whole life improves whenever you, I think, whenever you start to show up this way, your whole life improves, not just your work, but your family, everybody around you. They want to be around you. And I'll be curious if you agree with this quote or not. There's a Zig Ziglar quote I was thinking about when it came to the others focused. Zig Ziglar said, and this may not be exactly right, but he said, you can have everything you want if you're willing to help others get what they want. What do you think? Do you think that's an accurate quote? I mean, tell Zig Ziglar he's wrong.
yes. I mean, yeah, because it's like if it's what we talked about in the kind of like those first pieces. Like if my goal and focus as I move through the world is to make other people feel listened to make them look good, to look for ways to make things work. And as a result of that, I will build better relationships, right? And if my goal, again, is to like lift you up, make you look good, then I instill trust, a better relationship between the two of us because I'm playing for the team, I'm not playing for myself.
Right.
And there's strategy to that. There's smarts to that. It isn't just, it's not from a selfish place. It's just like if I lift other people up around me, then I will have a positive reputation with this thing, I'll have positive relationships, and then the things that I want to do in my life are easier because
everything gets easier.
I have a network. I have better relationships with that versus trying to like go through the world and convince everyone that you're so smart, that you know everything. There's nothing wrong with you. You can't be vulnerable for 1 second. You can't receive bad feedback. That's not helpful. No one's impressed by somebody who's trying to put up a mask to the world that they're perfect and infallible. Leaders have to ask for feedback from their teams and they have to receive that feedback well, even if they think it's unfair or they disagree with it, right? Like all of those kind of elements that like build trust. Anyways.
Okay, two-part question. Okay. So I know we got to wrap up quickly. And rule number 5, by the way, was stay positive. We covered that, I think, because we've said that several times, stay positive. That's rule number 5. But if we... so here's the two-part question. One, we take all these rules, all 5 of these rules, and we start to live them, right? We embrace them, both leadership, frontline, but I can only embrace it for myself. So I embrace these 5 rules. I start to live this way. Here's the question, 2 parts. One, everybody talks about culture, but I think it's one of those words that you say, but everybody has a different idea of what it actually is. So I'd like to know, what is your definition of culture? What does it mean to you? And then what happens to your culture when you start doing these things?
Yeah. So I love it. And culture is this nebulous, right. If you took, I mean, almost any organization in the world, if you take the senior leadership team and sat them down and asked them individually, what is culture? What is a culture here? How do you build culture inside an organization? They would all say wildly different things. This is something that we have so much strategic, specific, tactical knowledge of like operations and marketing and everything else. But when it comes to culture, it's just like, we're winging it. It's like, this is what it feels like. Or we're like, here's these values and trust and integrity. The reality is your culture is the way that people show up, treat each other, and approach their work together. Your culture is the ground rules of engagement that define what it means to be part of your team. And everything that takes place inside a team organization that fits in that category is your culture. So if people gossip and badmouth about each other, that is your culture. You wouldn't put up on a poster and be like, we're proud of this, but if it takes place and people experience it, and like it is your culture, and good, bad, and different, right? If people feel safe to give honest feedback to leaders, any of those, like all of those things are your culture. And so the goal is to build positive, intentional culture that is consistent across the board, because a lot of organizations have different cultures. You've got a team or function over here that's great, well-oiled machine, they're awesome, low turnover, everybody works well. And then you have in the same organization another function, department, location over here that is like totally toxic, high turnover, they're not happy. And so the way that most employees experience culture inside an organization is almost 100% dependent onto what team they get hired onto. So to create an intentional culture across the board, you need clearly defined behaviors and mindsets that are universally understood, that everybody takes ownership for, and that no one is exempt from. That's the recipe.
No one's exempt.
That's what you have to do. It has to be us saying, this is who we are. This is the clearly defined behaviors. And the CEO and that doesn't matter how long you've been here. It doesn't matter what your title or role is. This is who we are. And we mean it. And what we allow, we endorse.
That's good.
So if you allow things to take place that are out of alignment with who you say you are, you don't have culture, you just have internal marketing speak. It has to be something that we're clear about, we're committed to, and we're consistent with.
Yeah. You said you said a lot that was awesome. I'm gonna have to go back and like transcribe that because there's some really good things in there. But there was one thing I want to come back to: ground rules for how we interact with each other. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Ground rules for what it means to be part of a team.
I love that. That is a really good takeaway for me. Is like culture is the ground rules for who we. You can tell I like rules because I'm like, let's talk about 5 rules, and then I honed in on ground rules. But I like things that go like, hey, this is the simple, repeatable things that you do that make a difference.
Right.
I always resonate with that. Is what is the simple, repeatable things that you can make a part of who you are that will drive positive change, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Dude, I could talk to you for a long time.
I know, me too. I could never shut up about this stuff. I love it. So.
Well, it matters. This stuff matters. So thank you so much for coming and speaking to us. I know you drove positive change for our organization today. It's been awesome for me to get to pick your brain a little bit. Thanks for coming to Wichita Falls. We hope to have you back again.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Yeah.
Thanks,
Appreciate
man.
it, man.
Appreciate it.
Take care.